Welcome in, YCN Sports Talk. Jeremy Stoughton joined by Dustin Ribellini. And Dustin, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me back, Jeremy.
And we haven't talked to you for a few weeks. We talked to Brett Franklin of ESPN Radio last week, and we were on the verge of the trade deadline in the NBA. Obviously, that was last Thursday. Celtics looking to possibly make some moves. That's come and gone. We all know they didn't make any moves. From a standpoint of they thought that what the deals that were out there it was too much.
Right.
Danny Ainge couldn't figure out a deal. So what does that say, in the grand scheme of things, in the short term and the long term for this team?
You just kind of wonder, what is this team waiting for? We've heard for years and years how many assets this team has. They have the draft picks from Brooklyn. They have some nice young core players. You wonder, are they overvaluing these assets a little bit? We heard that Danny Ainge was hesitant to throw in Jay Crowder and a Jimmy Butler deal. Is he overvaluing Jay Crowder, or does he really view him as a piece of this team going forward? I think what he's doing is he's looking at this number one. We've heard about this pick forever, this Brooklyn pick for this year. It's going to be the pick. I think he's valuing it as a number one pick, where everybody else is saying, hey, Danny, it could be number one, but there's actually a better chance it's 2 or 3.
Right, 25% chance that they get the number one pick. That means 75% chance that they don't get it, as my math has showed me. So then they also have the pick from next year, or for next year. Obviously, you'd think the Nets would be a little better, but there's still a chance that they could seriously have 2 very high picks in 2 consecutive years, and plus building for the future. But the problem is, Isaiah Thomas will be a free agent after this year. Horford has 3 years left on his deal, but the 4th is a player option the last year. So with those 2 picks, do you anticipate maybe a trade after the ping pong balls have fallen, and if it's a number 1 pick, they can get something for it? If it's a number 4, maybe they have to throw in Bradley or Marcus Smart along with Crowder and the pick.
I think it's going to have to be a trade, whether it be the pick this year, the pick next year, because the problem is for the Celtics, Cleveland got better. Toronto got better. Washington got better. Every team around them in the Eastern Conference got better, and not just for this year, down the road too. So I think for the Celtics to improve, they're going to have to make a move somewhere, whether it be Jimmy Butler, Paul George, we've heard all the names. But they're going to have to trade this pick eventually to make their team better for 2017, 18, and beyond.
And you mentioned the trade deadline, teams getting better, Celtics standing pat. They got a guy back. I think he played a couple days ago, Avery Bradley, and you're high on Avery Bradley, rightfully so. He's a good player. I think he's the second leading scorer behind Isaiah Thomas. So are they looking at it as, hey, we are getting someone back, so that's kind of a trade. We don't have to make any moves, but is he enough? I mean, he helps, but really, is he? He's only averaging 17 a game. Is he enough behind Thomas?
I don't think he's enough to catch to Cleveland. I think Cleveland's going to end up the number 1 seed, even though they have injury problems. He's a good piece. He's a good defender. He's that second scorer behind Thomas. But like you said, when healthy, the Celtics were very good with Bradley, but they're still only maybe that second or third best team. Whereas these other people, Toronto especially, brought in players to fill holes on their team already. The Celtics had a stopgap for Bradley, and now he just kind of gets back into his normal role. The only concerning thing is he only played 15 minutes the other night.
Right.
Is he truly not healthy enough where he can't play 30 minutes? That's what I wonder.
Well, and that's what they were talking, people, the pundits saying, okay, well, he's going to be back, he's going to be limited minutes, but at some point he's been out for so many games. Is he out of basketball shape? Just naturally, not that he's doing anything wrong. How long will it take? The playoffs are coming. Is this team seriously, as constructed now, in serious jeopardy of falling down to 4 or 5 and then having a much tougher first-round matchup than we all thought?
I think they are. I think right now, Jeremy, if you ask me to list the power rankings of Eastern Conference teams from top to bottom, I think the Celtics are the 4th best team. Now, granted, they're in the number 2 spot still. A lot of that's from their first half of play. But I think right now, as built with everybody else's improvements, they're the 4th best team. And I think they're going to slide down to that 4 or 5 seed and have to go on the road in the first round or face Cleveland in the second round.
Well, right, and that was the big thing. We were all sitting here saying they were the number 2 seed. Maybe even if they make a move and get a PJ Tucker or something, that's a chance that they have to solidify that number 2 seed. But instead, they do absolutely nothing, not even a role player. And as you mentioned, everybody around them gets better. And now I can see they don't match up with Toronto anyway. They don't match up with Washington anyway. They've struggled against Chicago, Cleveland we know. So it seems like this team is, I don't want to say they're throwing in the towel and saying, well, we're not going to beat Cleveland, so let's not get rid of our assets. But I would think that they could get better without mortgaging the future.
Right.
And still at least do something.
And the hard part now as a Celtics fan is you're getting ready for a playoff run, a stretch run of the season going into the playoffs. The ceiling of this team is Eastern Conference Finals if everything goes
At best,
perfectly.
right.
But the problem is the bottom of the barrel is a loss in the first round. So it's hard to say what's going to happen with this team. If they get hot, Eastern Conference Finals lose to Cleveland. If they go cold like they did have the last few games, they're going to lose in the first round.
And everyone's talking about how Isaiah Thomas getting shut down in the playoffs. I know he wasn't 100% healthy, and Crowder wasn't healthy last year, but this team, I think they have a long way to go.
Yes.
And although it looks like the future's bright with the 17 and 18 pick for Brooklyn, it's got everything to fall correctly for this team to have a chance. So it's going to be an interesting next few weeks as the playoffs are coming up in the next few months. So we'll take a break. It's spring training in baseball. The World Baseball Classic is upon us. We'll talk about that after we come back. You're watching YCN Sports Talk.